name is Mary, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite books, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This is the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, and I just reread it for the millionth time. And so I took some good notes on it so that I could give you guys the review that I think you guys deserve, and the review that I think this book deserves. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars because it's my favorite and I love it, and it was so well written. The characters were lovable, and man, does Rick Riordan know how to get his audience's attention. So this is just the first page in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians book, so it's not technically spoiling anything if you haven't read it. So, look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're reading this because you think that you might be one, my advice is close the book right now. Believe whatever lie your mom and dad told you about your birth and try to lead a normal life. Being a half-blood is dangerous. It's scary. Most of the time it gets you killed in painful, nasty ways. If you're a normal kid reading this because you think it's fiction, great. Read on. I envy you for being able to believe that none of this ever happened. But if you recognize yourself in these pages, if you feel something stirring inside, stop reading immediately. You might be one of us. And once you know that, it's only a matter of time before they sense it too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. That just is so gripping, and if I read this page and you hadn't heard that before, if you don't want to read this, then I guess fantasy is not really for you, but man, did that grip me. I read the entire series for the original 5 for the first time in 4 days during a school week. I read this book in the middle of 7th grade history class. Yeah. So it was perfect. I loved it. Best thing ever. The chapter titles in his original 5 Percy Jackson series are hilarious. The first chapter in this is called I Accidentally Vaporized My Pre-Algebra Teacher. And then there's another one that says Grover unexpectedly loses his pants. And then I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Wicked advice from a poodle. These are all chapter titles of it, and I love it. I immediately fell in love with the chapter titles of this. They just made me laugh so hard. Even if it was a really intense scene, they just knew how Rick Riordan just knows how to lighten the mood and bring you into just like a humor-filled, fun story. So this book takes place when Percy Jackson is 12 years old and he is in the 6th grade. So he's fairly young in this book, and he grows throughout the others, and that is an amazing element. And if they had done the Percy Jackson movies the way they did the Harry Potter movies, then this series would have turned out phenomenal as movies, but they didn't, so the movies no longer exist in my mind. I just will not consider them real. Again, the characters are super lovable. I fell in love with Annabeth the moment that I met her, and Percy's narration is phenomenal, and when you get to see what he's thinking, it just cracks me up, and I love seeing everything from his point of view because he is so funny. Okay, this next part is going to be the spoiler section, so if you are not spoiled yet, and you've not read the books, but you've seen the movies, but you still haven't read the books, or have not seen either of them, leave now. Go read this first book, and then come back, because I'm going to get into some major spoilers here. But only for the first book. I'm not spoiling any of the others, promise. Okay, spoiler section. The fact that Percy and his mom eat just blue food cracks me up. I think that is hilarious, that that's her way of rebelling against Smelly Gabe. And the fact that Percy calls him Smelly Gabe through the entire book is hilarious. We open with Percy being at Yancey Academy, which is some boarding school that his mom has sent him away to. We don't really understand why she does that. But we also meet Mr. Brunner, who we later figure out is Chiron. And whether he's Chiron or Mr. Brunner, I love him because he is a teacher that knows how to teach, and he does it well. He knows that Percy Jackson is a demigod, but I think that even if he didn't know that, if he was just a regular mortal human being, Mr. Brunner, that he would still push Percy to do the best he can, whether he has ADHD and dyslexia or he's an average kid who doesn't have those issues. I think that that's really important for a teacher to push their students to do the best that they can, because when my teachers have pushed me, I've done better. The Greek mythology that is being put into this story is so rich. There's so much that I didn't even know until I've gotten into my college class, that I've learned about a lot more of the Greek gods and their stories. It is insane how much it is layered into this story. In the first chapter, we learn about what Estelle is, Kronos and the origin of the gods, Tartarus, what Euphrasia is. We meet our first monster, which we later learn is a kindly one. We meet Mr. Brunner, who we later learn out is Chiron. And then we also learn the difference between the gods and the titans. That is a lot of information to take in, especially if you are just going right into the Odyssey by Homer and trying to figure out who all of these people are, what they're the gods of, and what their powers are, what each of their symbols mean, everything. I know that in my freshman year of high school, we did the Odyssey, and I had read the Percy Jackson books, so I hardly had to study because I knew all of the questions that they asked like that. Because Percy Jackson helped me learn all of those gods and goddesses and the different monsters and what their powers were, and even some of the stories of the original Greek heroes. And so I did amazing on that chapter, and everybody else who hadn't read it was really, really struggling, because the way Rick Riordan weaves the Greek mythology into his story is so elegant, is so good that you don't realize that you're learning, but you're learning. And then you come to really just appreciate the Greek gods and the mythology and everything that it has influenced in our society today. And I absolutely love that. I love it when I get to do something fun and also learn from it. The writing is not just educational for some people like me who like to learn things, but it's also hilarious and it just flows so nicely. I already read the first page, which is like really attention grabbing. It makes you want to finish reading this. But there's some other scenes in here that are so funny. It just makes me want to laugh like crazy. Hello! The lighting might be a tad different at this point because it is dark outside now, because I went to work and then came back to finish filming this video. Where we left off was where I was about to talk about all of the funny scenes that I loved in here. So, Percy Jackson's sass is on point the entire book, but there are some key points where I just could not keep myself from laughing on the inside and just had to laugh out loud. Before Percy and his mom left for Montauk, I think that's how you pronounce it, Gabe, Smelly Gabe, said, "Don't get one scratch on my car, on my Camaro, boy. Not one scratch." Like I would be driving anyways, but okay. And then the car gets chased by a Minotaur and they get exploded. So it goes, as if on cue, the bullman bellowed in rage. He picked up Gabe's Camaro by the torn roof, the chassis creaking and groaning. He raised the car over his head and threw it down on the road. It slammed into the wet asphalt and skidded in a shower of sparks for about half a mile before coming to a stop. The gas tank exploded. "Not a scratch," I remember Gabe saying. Oops. And then Percy is in camp and he's met Dionysus, and who continually gets his name wrong. And he's just been claimed by Poseidon and he's going on this quest. Well, he's going to get some of the details from Chiron and Mr. D, and he goes, "If I had my way," Dionysus said, "I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. we'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel like this would be against my mission at this cursed camp, to keep you little brats from harm. Spontaneous combustion is a form of harm, Mr. D, Chiron put in. Just so nonchalantly. He's like, spontaneous combustion is a form of harm. Just, they're playing Pinnacle, and they're just like, yep, yeah, you probably don't want to make a kid spontaneously combust. You might get stuck here for another 100 years. Just saying. So then Percy and Grover and Annabeth are on their huge adventure, and they get attacked by all three Furies on this charter bus that they're on. And I won't spoil it if you're still watching this, but here's the line. What I did next was so impulsive and dangerous, I should have been named ADHD Poster Child of the Year. And all I can imagine is an exploded bus in the background, Percy holding his sword over his shoulder, and it just says ADHD Poster Child. And it just cracks me up every time. After the bus explodes, they run into Medusa. I mean, what is their luck that they run into Medusa when they've just walked through the woods after the bus exploded? And then she has a garden emporium? I mean, seriously? And they ended up defeating her, and they cut off her head, and then he sends Medusa's head to Olympus. They're not gonna like that, Grover warned. They'll think you're impertinent. I am impertinent, I said. I looked at Annabeth, daring her to criticize. She didn't. She seemed resigned to the fact that I had a major talent for ticking off the gods. They've gone through all of these different trials, and they are finally about to head into Hades. And the sign outside the DOA recording studios that they have to go through says, no solicitors, no loitering, no living. It's usually like no soliciting, no loitering, no smoking, or no alcohol, or make sure your dog's on a leash or something. No living. Just, do mortals pass that and see, oh, it's just a joke? Huh? Or does the mist cover that up? I really want to know that. And finally, one of my favorite scenes is something that actually goes on in Percy's head, which happens a lot in this book, is you're just seeing what he's thinking, but he decides not to say it, which is kind of smart. So he's fighting Eris, and he goes, I've been fighting for eternity, kid. My strength is unlimited, and I cannot die. What have you got? Smaller ego, I thought, but I said nothing. The smaller ego. See, I wish I could come up with that kind of thing on the spot, but I can't. I'll think of like the perfect comeback about 2 days after something happens, and then it's pointless to think of that. But I think that's what happens to most people. But Percy comes up with it like that, and I love that. When Percy is going to get his quest from the Oracle, he's passing a whole bunch of these artifacts, and one of them says, Hydra Head #1 from Woodstock. Is anybody interested in what happened at Woodstock with the Hydra? 'Cause I'm really interested. So I was not expecting Luke to betray him. I was thinking Grover might freak out and decide not to go into the underworld or something, but that didn't happen, which I kind of liked because I like Grover. But Luke being the main bad guy, my first time reading it, I was so stunned at that. If you look at the cover, you've got the lightning, and then you've got I'm pretty sure that's the New York skyline, and then you've got the ocean, which is not the ocean that Percy came out of. And he's holding the Minotaur horn, which he also never stood in the ocean with. But I think it's really cool how they combined everything, and his orange t-shirt just pops, and it's really eye-catching. I love the cover designs on these books. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, and leave a comment down below telling me which of the Greek gods is your godly parent and why. Bye!